In 1938, as Nazi forces stormed through Vienna, they captured a member of Europe's most powerful family, Louis von Rothschild. The ransom they demanded was staggering, $21 million, equivalent to nearly $500 million today, making it the largest ransom in history at that time. But for the Rothschilds, this was just another chapter in their extraordinary story. A family so wealthy and influential that they've been accused of controlling everything from world governments to the weather itself. The truth about the Rothschilds lies somewhere between undeniable fact and wild conspiracy. They did finance both sides of the Napoleonic Wars, control the price of gold for over a century, and build the world's first truly international banking empire. Their network of spies and couriers gave them information faster than kings and queens. By the mid-1800s, they held more wealth than all the royal families of Europe combined. Yet as their power grew, so did the myths and legends surrounding them. Today, we'll separate fact from fiction to reveal the full story of how one Jewish family rose from the Frankfurt ghetto to shape the modern world, for better or worse. The story of the Rothschilds begins in Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto, where Meyer Amschel Rothschild lived in a house barely 4 meters wide, crammed between thousands of other Jewish families. From these humble beginnings, he would build an empire by sending his 5 sons to establish banks across Europe's major cities. Within decades, they controlled more wealth than all of Europe's royal families combined. But how did a family from the ghetto come to possess such extraordinary power? The answer lies in their revolutionary approach to banking and information. While other bankers relied on official channels, the Rothschilds created their own private intelligence network. A sophisticated web of couriers, agents, and informants, spanning every major European city. They communicated using a secret code written in Hebrew characters, allowing them to share market information and political intelligence faster than kings and emperors. When Wellington defeated Napoleon at Waterloo, a Rothschild courier delivered the news to London a full day before the government's official messenger arrived. This information advantage spawned one of history's most persistent myths, that Nathan Rothschild used his advanced knowledge of Wellington's victory to manipulate the London Stock Exchange, making millions in a single day. The truth was far more impressive. The Rothschilds had already amassed their fortune by financing both sides of the Napoleonic Wars, creating the first truly international banking system in the process. Their network of banks could transfer massive sums across borders even in times of war, a capability that made them indispensable to Europe's rulers. Their influence grew to such heights that by the 1900s they were financing everything from the Suez Canal to the Russian railways. In Vienna, their palace rivaled those of emperors. In Paris, they built mansions that made kings jealous. Their art collection became legendary, over 5,000 pieces including masterpieces by Rembrandt, Vermeer, and countless others. A collection that would soon be at the center of one of history's greatest heists. As the Nazis rose to power, the Rothschilds faced their greatest challenge. While Louis von Rothschild was held captive in Vienna, his family orchestrated an extraordinary secret operation to save their priceless art collection. Paintings were hidden in wine cellars deep beneath French vineyards. Sculptures were buried in forest clearings under cover of darkness. Entire collections were smuggled across borders through a network of trusted allies. It would become one of the greatest art rescues in history, though in the end, Hitler and Göring would still personally pick through the family's seized collections, taking whatever caught their eye. The Rothschilds' struggle against the Nazis would mark the beginning of a new chapter in their story, one that would transform them from the world's most powerful banking dynasty into something else entirely. Meyer Amschel's master plan was deceptively simple yet revolutionary. While Louis von Rothschild faced the Nazis in Vienna, his ancestors had built their empire through an equally bold strategy. From his modest home in Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto, Meyer had dispatched his 5 sons to Europe's key financial centers. Amschel remained in Frankfurt, Salomon went to Vienna, Nathan to London, Karl to Naples, and James to Paris. But this wasn't just about expanding the family business. It was about creating something entirely new, the world's first truly international bank. What made their system unique wasn't just its scale, but its sophistication. The brothers developed a private code using Hebrew characters and maintained a network of agents that made government intelligence services look amateur by comparison. Their system of carrier pigeons, fast ships, and private couriers was so effective that during the Battle of Waterloo, they received news of Napoleon's defeat a full 24 hours before the British government's official messenger arrived. This information advantage was worth millions. When other bankers were still waiting for news about political events or market changes, the Rothschilds were already making their moves. Their banking innovations transformed finance itself. They standardized international credit and pioneered the use of bills of exchange that could be cashed anywhere in Europe. A revolutionary concept in an age when most banks operated only locally. A merchant in London could now easily do business with someone in Vienna, knowing that the Rothschild network would handle the complex currency exchanges and transfers. They also invented new financial instruments like internationally traded government bonds, creating the modern bond market we know today. By 1815, they had become so essential to European finance that Nathan Rothschild could truthfully declare, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire." As the Industrial Revolution gathered steam, the Rothschilds were perfectly positioned to profit. They financed railways across Europe, funded mining operations, and invested in the new manufacturing industries that were transforming the continent. Their support could make or break major industrial projects. When they backed the first major railway line between Paris and Vienna, other investors poured in millions, knowing the family's reputation for picking winners. By 1830, the French branch alone had grown from capital of $5 million to over $500 million, nearly $15 billion in today's money. By the 1830s, their wealth had grown beyond anything Europe had ever seen. Their combined fortune was larger than that of every royal family in Europe combined. They owned palaces in every major European city, built art collections that rivaled those of kings, and lived in a style that made nobility jealous. When the Austrian emperor visited James Rothschild's new mansion in Paris, he reportedly remarked, "Kings couldn't afford this. It could only belong to a Rothschild." The comment wasn't just flattery. The family's wealth was estimated at over $400 million in 1850, equivalent to over $100 billion today. Their political influence grew alongside their wealth. Monarchs and ministers would seek their advice on financial matters, but increasingly on political issues as well. The Rothschilds became unofficial diplomats, using their connections across borders to mediate disputes between nations. Their support could prop up struggling governments or help finance wars, though they often chose to back both sides, ensuring their influence regardless of the outcome. At one point, they were simultaneously bankers to the British Empire, the French Empire, the Austrian Empire, and the Papal States. But perhaps their most brilliant strategy was how they maintained their wealth across generations. While other rich families saw their fortunes dispersed through inheritance and marriage, the Rothschilds took a different approach, one that would have made medieval kings proud. They arranged marriages between cousins, keeping wealth and power strictly within the family. Between 1824 and 1877, of 36 marriages by Mayer's male descendants, 30 were to other Rothschilds. It was calculated dynasty building on an unprecedented scale, ensuring that what the family built would last not just years, but centuries. The Rothschilds' influence extended far beyond banking. When Britain needed to secure control of the Suez Canal in 1875, it was the Rothschilds who provided the £4 million necessary, equivalent to nearly $500 million today. They financed railways across Europe, from the Austrian Southern Railway to France's Northern Line. Their support for a project was so valuable that when they backed the first major railway between Paris and Vienna, other investors poured in millions simply because of the Rothschild name. Kings couldn't afford this, the Austrian emperor once remarked, while visiting a Rothschild mansion. It could only belong to a Rothschild. But their true power lay in their ability to shape nations through finance. When Brazil sought independence from Portugal in 1820, it was Rothschild money, £2 million, that made it possible. They bailed out the Bank of England during financial crises and helped stabilize the currencies of nations. At their peak in the late 1800s, the family controlled assets worth over $50 billion in today's money, making them by far the wealthiest family in the world. Their influence was so vast that Nathan Rothschild could truthfully declare, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire." Yet, for all their power and influence, the Rothschilds were about to face their greatest challenge. The rise of Nazi Germany devastated their European operations. The Vienna branch was seized, its assets confiscated. The French operations were shuttered, their art collections looted. Over 5,000 pieces, including masterworks by Rembrandt and Vermeer, taken by Hitler and Göring themselves. Even after the war, the blows kept coming. In 1981, the French government nationalized the Rothschild Bank in Paris, ending over 150 years of banking tradition. The family that had once financed empires was being dismantled piece by piece. The family adapted, shifting their focus to new ventures and markets. In London, N.M. Rothschild & Sons became a powerhouse in mergers and acquisitions. The French branch reinvented itself as an investment bank. They expanded into mining, energy, and real estate. While no longer the undisputed kings of banking, they remained a force in global finance. Though now they preferred to operate quietly, away from the public eye that had brought them both fame and persecution. Today, the Rothschild Group manages over $500 billion in assets, with operations in 40 countries. While conspiracy theorists claim they control trillions in secret wealth and manipulate everything from governments to the weather, the reality is more modest. Their current fortune is estimated at around $400 billion. Massive, but far from the dominance they once enjoyed. The days of financing wars and controlling gold prices are long gone, replaced by a more diversified, modern approach to wealth management. The modern Rothschilds have transformed themselves far beyond their banking origins. They own wineries in France, tech startups in Silicon Valley, and sustainable energy projects across Europe. Some family members have pursued entirely different paths. David Mayer de Rothschild is an adventurer and environmentalist who once sailed across the Pacific in a boat made of recycled plastic bottles. It's a far cry from the days when his ancestors were financing empires, but it shows how this remarkable family has managed to stay relevant by constantly reinventing itself while maintaining the core principles that built their fortune: adaptability, discretion, and an uncanny ability to spot opportunity in times of change. The numbers thrown around in conspiracy theories about the Rothschilds are staggering. Some claim they control $500 trillion, more than all the private wealth that exists in the world. The reality? Their actual current fortune, while still massive, is estimated at around $400 billion, making them wealthy, but far from the all-powerful force many believe. The family that once financed empires and controlled gold prices has transformed into successful investment bankers and business people who maintain their wealth through smart management rather than shadowy control. The truth about the Rothschilds isn't found in conspiracy theories, but in their lasting impact on global finance. They created the first truly international banking system, pioneered modern investment strategies, and showed how family unity could preserve wealth across generations. Today, they're just one of many powerful families in finance. Extraordinarily wealthy and influential, yes, but no longer the singular force that once shaped the destiny of nations.